Hello and welcome. This is episode number 40 of the VCD Roundtable. This time not from any wonderful hotel. Every one of us is actually at home, except for Sasha. That's why he isn't here today. So we could actually do a home cast and
Oh, he is at home. That's the reason.
his second, third, fourth, whatsoever home. Yes. By the last mails I got from Marriott is like they feel me like a resident, a constant resident as well as my feeling. Um, Nevertheless, it's episode number 40. We are nearly 2 weeks ahead of the Explore, but we are not going to cover Explore that much because, at least from what I have heard, there is not that much more different than what we have seen in Vegas is going to happen in Barcelona. I have a few service provider updates, which I'm going to run through at the end so that we can cover first the technical content and people can ignore the legal and other BS stories at the end. So, yeah, let's get started. Matthias, quick intro, and then I think Toby has prepared the topic of the day.
Yeah, today me just listening. Most of the time, I assume. So welcome from my side. Looking forward hearing to what Toby's sharing with us today with VCF.
I don't think that you will only listen because we have some interesting points to discuss. Yeah. Also, hello and welcome from my side to episode 40. Today, mainly we are talking about what's new in VCF 5.2, but also not only what's new, also having a little bit a look already into the future because it's really interesting to see what features has already been declared as deprecated within the next releases. So also we will have a little bit of a look out into the future. So talking about VCF 9. Yeah, let's start with what's new in VCF 5.2.1. One of the main chapters or one of the main topics this release is getting more and more stability into the product, but also the whole update management or the whole update process has been improved. And one of the key features here is the so-called reduced downtime upgrade support for vCenter, the so-called RDU. Which basically means that the whole update process of our vCenter has been changed in the background. So there is no need that we really do a full update of the vCenter anymore. Only the services or only the particular groups of what will be updated will be then updated. And so the outcome mainly should be that the vCenter update should only take up to 5 minutes. Let's see what the future is really bringing, because I don't think that always 5 minutes will be working. But for example, if just the inventory needs a simple update, the inventory service needs a simple update, then also only we need to update the inventory process and not the whole vCenter anymore. So this is one of the advantages we have seen. And also, what my personal opinion on this is this is already the preparation that the vCenter will become more and more containerized in the future. The second thing is really an interesting one, and there I would like to have also the opinion of Matthias and Yves on it. The second thing is, and is to be honest, it is something which has been there in NSX since ages, but it is now also supported from a VCF perspective, that you now can do your NSX host update without having maintenance mode. But there are some implications on it, because if I just do an in-place upgrade of my NSX install packages of my ESXi hosts, this means that in the time where the old VIPs has been deinstalled and the new VIPs will be installed, that my distributed firewall is not working, my whole networking is not working, because also my distributed router modules and stuff like this are currently not available, which means if you really select to do the update in in-place mode, please be aware that all of your VMs, which are currently running on your ESXi hosts, there will be a short interruption, because the old packages needs to be deinstalled and the new packages needs to be installed. And as mentioned at the beginning, this is something which has been there in NSX, I think, since version 3 something. But it has now also arrived the whole lifecycle management and VCF update management. But Matthias, what's your opinion on doing an in-place update of a transport node or of a host transport node in NSX, and what could be a reason for it? This is something which is, from my perspective, more interesting. What could be the reason to do an in-place update directly on a transport node?
So my opinion on this is, and I'm always more on the safe side. So if we're just talking about a host transport node hosting virtual machines, honestly, that's a no-go for me, because losing DFW for a non-definable amount of time, no, that's nothing I would prefer. So what would be really cool is having maintenance mode, install, uninstall VIPs and kernel modules needed, unload, load modules, and maybe skip the reboot of the host. That's pretty cool, because that saves a lot of time. But honestly, I would not use it. The only use case I could think of are hosts which are prepared but only used to host edge transport nodes.
Yeah, so
because we are aware an edge transport node should not be moved using vMotion. I'm using a should not because it's not a requirement. And if the host is prepared, because no one says you need to prepare a host to deploy edge transport node. So that's another philosophical discussion which we're not starting here. So that could be a use case, or an ESXi or a host transport node which does not participate in DFW, but mainly use routing for the distributed router for a short amount of time, and that might be an even bigger impact. So it's nice, but I can't see any big advantages.
I'm absolutely on your side. So also from my perspective, the only advantage maybe could be when I do not use, for example, NSX in my management domain, but still we know, as talking today, the management domain still is prepared for NSX. That then I can say, okay, for my management domain where I do not utilize any kind of NSX features.
That's a very nice one. That's a very interesting thought, because the management domain has vSAN, at least speaking as of today. I don't know if it's the same with 5.2.1, if vSAN is still the primary storage, but because with vSAN, putting a host into maintenance mode, I'm again on the safe side, and I learned that the hard way, and Eve will smile a lot, and all the folks listening to the podcast can't see Eve smile, because in the past, in the beginnings of vSAN, I start just placing a host into maintenance mode and just use the ensure accessibility option. And I got bitten by that a few times. So I always use full data migration if I place a host into maintenance mode with vSAN.
Yeah. Which is not utilized by default from the lifecycle manager perspective.
Yes.
That's right.
But now with instant or in place update, that's pretty cool for the management cluster.
Yeah.
If
and
you're
also,
not using NSX.
Also talking about, I have heard some rumors there are maybe some additional hyperconverged infrastructure vendors on the market available also for them. So for example, talking about solutions from HP, solutions from Cisco, where I have maybe an VM which is providing my storage access, and there also I cannot utilize the full maintenance mode. So these are my only two opinions on that, why it maybe is something which is an advantage to have it now also in VCF 5.2. The next thing I would like to mention, and this is also something which clearly shows that more and more the whole let's call it brownfield stuff, comes into the whole VCF game is that I can now have a workload domain with different lifecycle manager images. So, which basically means I can now create a workload domain consisting, for example, of 4 HP hosts and 4 Dell EMC hosts, because I have now the opportunity to select in a workload domain more than one lifecycle management image, which means that more and more of the whole import stuff and brownfield stuff comes into the VCF story. But this is something we are clearly aware. At least I expected after exploring Barcelona, the next release of the importer will be available, where we then should also be capable of importing existing environments where we have already NSX in place and stuff like this. So this is also something which is more and more coming. The next thing is that more and more the new licensing models gets in place. So we have now the opportunity to really utilize, or to finally utilize our vSAN licenses for the terabytes, because this was also something which was not possible before. So before, you don't need to enter the additional license keys for your vSAN capacity. This is now also solved, which also means that you now should have your capacity vSAN licenses available and bring them into your SDDC manager, that you can now also license your vSAN capacity. And the last thing, and also there is already a little bit of a lookout into VCF 8, VCF 9. Certificate management and password management has been taken away from the SDDC manager and has been now handed over to the vCenter, so or to the vSphere client, to be honest. So now we will do the whole password management and the certificate management not anymore in the SDDC manager. We will do it now in the vSphere client. So it means basically that the whole password stuff and also the certificate stuff is now there where it should belong from my perspective, because since we're always talking about the passwords of the single sign-on domains and of the local accounts of our SDDC manager and stuff like this, it has always been accounts one side directly on the ESXIs and on the other side directly in our SSO domain. So the whole password and certificate management is now been removed from the SDDC manager and has been handed over to vCenter. Private AI more and more comes also into the whole VCF story. So there are new workflows available, which more and more makes the installation of a private AI solution much easier. So we have now the full support of the deployment already with the NVIDIA GPU cards in VCF 5.2.1. So also here that we can streamline more and more the process of setting up a whole private AI solution. On the other hand, and for those who would like to read it as well, please have a look into the release notes, and also please have a look into the deprecation notices, because there are some really interesting features mentioned, which will be done in the next releases or in the future major releases, to be honest. So the Cloud Builder appliance will be done in the next future major release, which also means that the Cloud Builder API will be done, and also the Excel spreadsheet will not be there anymore. So we can expect that the whole bring-up process or the whole ramp-up process of a VCF 9 solution will be totally different from that what we know as today. And also, this is really interesting, and there I would also like to have Matthias' opinion on it. The whole edge management workflow will be also removed. So there will be no edge management in the next releases. That's the part where Matthias starts the party.
No one can see my happy face. No, so honestly speaking, especially the topic around edge management is way too complex because we cannot reduce edge transport nodes and the configuration into like a few use cases and standardize it across, like we have 5 use cases and we cover everything. At least if we speak about all the different designs we created for our CSPs, I think more or less every single CSP has a slightly different edge transport node design and configuration and different requirements on top of it, because based on the requirements it got designed. So I think it's impossible to build a standard approach. And even the deployment is very complex. Let's start just deploying the virtual machines, because you might want to deploy to one cluster, multiple clusters. Maybe I would like to deploy edge transport nodes to a cluster which is managed by a different vCenter. So it is very complex. So yeah. I think that's good news. And honestly, deploying an edge transport node is not highly complex. It's easy to automate. So everyone is more than welcome and use VCF automation. I think Orchestrator is part of VCF automation in the future.
Yeah.
Deploy the edge transport nodes. It's very simple. Just go for it. I think it's one REST API call.
Yeah. Just create your JSON file and then you can do the whole deployment as well. Yeah. Also for that. And the only thing which bothers me a little bit on that, or not really bothering, we need to, or especially service providers, or also each NSX customer needs to think about this in the future. The only thing which was really nice from the NSX edge deployment workflow was that he has already created the multi-tab deployment, and the uplink VLAN configuration was in the right manner, which also often was a kind of limitation, Matthias, to be honest. Yeah, I know. But on the other hand, this is something, especially for the future, where service providers and customers, they really need to look into it, that they don't forget that they now need to take care about redundancy by themselves, so that they really need to have a look to get really the full redundancy. But what's really is interesting from my perspective is also the announcement that the cloud builder will be gone. So looks like that the bringer process will be fully new, maybe like a vCenter deployment in the future. Let's see what's really coming up there.
Please not.
Or if we maybe will see a full new solution in VCF 9. So really interesting to see here what's coming up. But as talking today, 24th of October, the deprecation notice is there that the Cloud Builder appliance will become in the next major release. So this is something which has been already announced. Talking of products, what do we have? We have vCenter 8.0 Update 3, Caesar. We have ESXi Update 3B. We have vSAN Update 3B. Yeah, surprise. And we have VMware NSX 4.2.1 and the whole ARIA Suite Lifecycle Manager, or VCF Suite Lifecycle Manager. Let's see what the name is in the future. 8.18. Especially for the ARIA Suite Lifecycle, something I would like to mention. Currently, there is an issue because already some networks gets really changed in the backend of VMware. Also, if you have a look at the interoperability metrics, you get currently the notification that the site is maybe not stable. So please be aware if you deploy, for example, currently Login Site or Operations Manager, you get a warning message saying, hey, your ESXi and your vCenter version is not compatible with the Login Site or with the Ops Manager you would like, or AVIA Operations for Log, you would like to deploy. But this is currently just a false positive because the ARIA Suite Lifecycle Manager is not capable of downloading currently the right interoperability files. Yeah, that's it basically from a VCF perspective. Any questions so far?
No, I think it's what we can clearly see is there is a lot of preparation for VCF 9 going on.
Yeah.
It's everything is moving in that direction, and it makes it more and more clear that VCF 9 is no longer focused on standalone products.
Nope.
They are clearly focused on having all of that and combining all of that, and the primary deployment methodology is VCF, period. If you make it work, at least from everything we see currently in preparations and deprecations and everything else, it sounds more like, hey, if you can figure out how to make it work standalone, nice, but we don't care.
Yeah,
and
also Alain has mentioned this last time in my video series, that the whole ARIA suite currently there will be no new release. As a standalone release, the next release will be already fully embedded into VCF.
And now I'm just actually speaking something out potentially loud, is I would not be surprised if VCF 9 has at the same point in time a checkmark in there which says you can only implement it if you have a subscription license, which actually will mean that Broadcom is going to continue to support the existing vSphere ES6 for the perpetual license customers for the next 2 or 3 years, which they have actually always promised. But none of these customers will have any chance to get into VCF 9 until they are switching their licenses to subscription. And before all the haters come out of the corner, this is something which many other vendors have been doing before. Adobe, Microsoft, just to name 2 very big ones, but you can go through the list of many, many, many others as well. And this is nothing new, that once you are really seriously switching to subscription, you are basically doing that with a major upgrade, and you just say it's like, pooh, this release is just no longer available as with a perpetual license key. Because Broadcom never in any of the announcements clearly said it's like, hey, you can actually continue to do that. They only said it's like, we are going to support, we give you patches, we are going to support new hardware and things like that. But they never said that you get a new product version.
And
so
I would like to add there something. I also would say this is maybe also not the point for just the subscription license. I would also say could be also a point for the VVF license, for example, because also there, if we stay on version 8 and it is still supported.
Yeah, but that is the part where I think is like from currently the 4 editions we have. We have the Essentials, we have vSphere Standard, we have VVF and VCF. My feeling is VVF will still be there, but the only way to deploy VVF is actually via the same way as VCF, but you will just not get all the products. So that the upgrade mechanism within the systems is going to be easy. What I would not be surprised is for the other 2, vSphere Essentials and vSphere Standard. I would not be surprised if we have exactly that scenario. 8 point whatsoever is the last version you will get. So So all of that would actually play into games and solve it. And so let's see how that works. But nevertheless, so all of that is interesting. I think Barcelona is going to, we will see more details around VCF 9. I'm not expecting too many new surprises from a feature or anything else perspective from that way. So I think that should be stable. Let me come to the, let's say, more boring part for the service providers, or I wouldn't call it out boring because it's really serious now. There are 2 dates which have been long on the calendar. And based on the amounts of warning messages coming from the CCMs, from Broadcom, from everybody else, it's like fun time is over. So by the end of this week, which is basically by tomorrow, you need to have your commit contracts, including your license contracts and everything else, signed. So this means you need to have accepted the commit contracts also from your CCM. So don't come up with a crazy idea of submitting them tomorrow, because if there is no one sitting on the other side on the VMware by Broadcom side and actually creating a quote, feeding it back via the CCM and actually getting it back to you, you might be out of luck. What is unclear, which I asked already, but this is a secondary warning which I would give everybody. If you planned to, let's say, upgrade your amount of cores backdated so that you avoid any overusage or anything else, I would make sure that you do that by tomorrow as well, because as far as I understand out of the message, after that, you will not be able to get any backdated licenses anymore. So then you will have to pay for overusage for the months and everything else. So better be sure and better be safe than sorry, is make sure that you are all up to date, that your licenses are deployed, that you actually have committed and submitted all your additions from a transaction document perspective, etc., so that you're safe. Yes.
Have I, since you mentioned the licenses, have I read it in the right manner? You need to replace the licenses.
That is the part which is going to come into play by the week after, by the
31st
of October. All licenses need to be replaced. That date was originally the 30th of September. Because they had issues with the license issuing system, they actually delayed the process up until end of October, which is next week. Considering you are using any license key on the 1st of November, which has not been reissued, that license key is not considered under the new terms. So even if you, let's say, committed for 1,000 cores, and Broadcom can identify that you are using one of these keys in there and you are below your 1,000 cores, you will pay overusage for them. And that is actually the smallest part. In general, you are in violation of your license terms, because all the old license keys, and I'm only talking about service providers here, so let's not confuse anything. All the old license keys for service providers basically are devaluated by 31st of March. Because at that day, you needed to replace with a new contract. Broadcom basically allowed you, because they didn't have their systems up and running, to actually still use the old keys. And now we are hitting the timeline. From what we have heard from some service providers, we don't know what exactly is the trigger point for it. Some of our service providers who had old keys in some systems still actually even got the license expiration warning by the end of September, which magically switched to end of October. So it seems like that there is a license validation process already in place. Maybe it's done via usage meter, whatever else, we don't have any clue. Doesn't matter, because if you are in compliance, you shouldn't have an issue. But keep in mind, you need to replace your license key by 31st of October. Overusage is actually the smallest thing which can happen to you. Basically, if Broadcom would want to, they can actually audit you. And before now, everybody comes out of the corner and says, like, they need to have something so that they can audit me. No, they don't, because as a service provider, you signed a contract allowing Broadcom with 5 business days notice to do a license audit, and that you would comply with that and actually support that and provide all documentation. And otherwise, there are even the fees defined in the contract. So stop the bullshit of running around and saying it's like Broadcom can't audit you. That's actually not true. You actually signed a contract which actually allows them to audit you. And we are talking about B2B. There is no consumer protection law which is actually going to protect you here. So better be sure that you have replaced all your license keys in all your systems by end of next week, which also means, which some of our customers have actually figured out of some of our white label hosts, is they seem to have also updated something already in NSX and some other systems. It's actually validating if you have the correct amount of cores and everything else. And as a reminder, there is no overusage for add-on licenses. You need to have commit licenses. You cannot actually temporarily have more edge nodes or stuff like that. And it seems like that depending on which version combinations or anything else you have, you cannot even actually get them to work anymore. So be sure that you have all of that in place. Hopefully your host, white label host, has done everything needed for that. If not, chase them up. If you are one of ours and we haven't covered you, as far as I have seen the list, everybody should be done now. But if not, actually ping our support team so that they can make sure that you are covered by next week, because we don't want to have any billing surprises the week after. So all of this is coming. And so that also means on the other side that potentially in Barcelona, we finally have more realistic numbers than in Las Vegas. If the numbers are still as interesting as in Vegas, then I think it's going to be a different story. So that's the licensing and other pieces. So better be sure to prepare that. For all the Pinnacle and Premier partners, you have hopefully seen in the newsletter, you also need to have a certain amount of certified people. As far as I understood, there is a maximum of 6 months. So if at that point in time you don't have enough people certified, which would be somewhere early next year, second quarter next year, if by then you don't have your people certified, you would automatically fall back to become a registered partner, which means even if you are actually a Pinnacle partner at the moment, you would actually be dropped out of the program. You need to actually rebuy your licenses via a white label host and all of these wonderful things. So better be sure that you train your people. Some of these exams are pretty serious in some of these areas. It's not just done with a multiple choice, hey, I'm a sales rep whatsoever scenario. Better be sure to fully understand this. Talk to your CCM, talk to your account manager and everything else. That, however, only affects Premier and Pinnacle partners. You need to get up to speed on these things. Don't wait until last minute. Also, as a reminder, get exam vouchers and everything else from Broadcom. But all of this is limited if you're a Premier partner. Pinnacle partners are a bit more open from a training perspective, but from an exam perspective, they are also limited to a certain amount of parallel exams. So all of these things are going to keep a lot of people busy in the next couple of months. But I would say then we are finally done. So I think it's going to be interesting. There will be an advisory board at Explore Barcelona as well. So I'm looking forward to see who's going to be there from a service provider perspective as well. So I hope to see some of you there. We have seen quite a few of our service provider audience already signed up for our Monday evening Comdivision and Friends event at the Hard Rock Cafe. We are over capacity at the moment. So if you are currently registering, you'll actually be put on the wait list. We will send out an email next week to everybody to finally confirm if they are going to show up. That will allow us to open up more spaces, but currently we only have waiting list available, which means we cannot actually guarantee that you can attend. But we will figure something out. We are also going to work with Hard Rock Cafe if they can somehow up the capacity, but it's not necessarily easy for them because the room we have in the basement, at least the room which was currently planned, is at capacity. So that's it. Any other expectations we have out of Explore Barcelona before we call it a day?
Not really.
Any other news from Matthias?
If I say I hope the weather will be fine, it's a bit weird, but honestly, no. Based on what I experienced in Vegas, I just think we have more announcements around VCF 9, more details as Toby already shared. I hope that Hock Tan will continue his appearances and speeches for the communities like he gave in Vegas. I think that's a very good path he started to walk, and I desperately hope that he will continue because that was a really nice experience. And I'm not sharing other secrets publicly right now, but I have some things I'm really looking forward into on Tuesday. Of course,
you will be on stage during the keynote. Is that your plan, which you are going to surprise us all on Tuesday?
No. I would never been able to keep that secret.
So at least we can already say it's like we know what's not going to be.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Then I think it was a great episode. I think we are going to, as far as I have heard, are we planning to record one in Barcelona as well?
Yes.
From the calendar invites, yes.
Okay, then that sounds like a plan as well, so that we can keep everybody updated with the latest and greatest from Barcelona. Maybe we need to move a few things still around, but we are going to keep you posted from there. We hope to see many of you at our events during the Explore. Even if you don't make it to the dinner, let us know if you want to meet up somewhere. We are always happy to meet you all in person. And with that being said, have a wonderful remainder of the week. We are going to post this on all the platforms as usual in the next couple of days. And hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.